6, 7, 8. Rock step, triple step, rock step, cha-cha-cha, rock step, cha-cha-cha.
Hi, my name's Kate and my pronouns are they, them.
And my name is Lou and my pronouns are also they, them.
Just two they, thems talking about dance.
Dance and stuff.
Dance and stuff, as usual. Lou, what's on the docket today?
Today, we are talking about white supremacy and dance. This is actually part 2 of a 2-part series where we're talking about this subject. And in part 1, we started going through this list by Tema, Okun, and we're going to be going through the second part of the list in this episode. Mm-hmm. So what this list does is it really calls out the behaviors, the very common behaviors that lots of people have that allow white supremacy to exist within society and within groups. Mm-hmm. And this is a list that I've been turning towards for years to check myself and to also understand the groups that I'm participating in more deeply. And Kate and I are going through this list item by item. If you want to hear a little bit more about what the list is or hear the first half of the list, you can just head back over to part 1. But to kick off this part 2 episode, Kate, would you just read the entire list for us?
Okay, so these are the characteristics of white supremacy from Tema Okun's list. Either or thinking, perfectionism, sense of urgency, defensiveness, quantity over quality, worship of the written word, only one right way, paternalism, power hoarding, fear of open conflict, individualism, I'm the only one, progress is bigger, more, objectivity, and right to comfort.
Amazing. So we unpacked either or thinking through only one right way in that first episode. And then we're going to be picking this up at paternalism.
And, you know, for context, we're also, you know, this is a dance podcast. So we're kind of drilling down into the dance world. But also think about all the different organizations and people that this affects. And it is really everyone and everywhere.
Yeah, this is the ocean that we swim in. Like this white supremacy is the dominant culture, especially in the Western world, especially in America. And this shows up everywhere. And if it shows up everywhere, it's definitely going to show up in our dance communities. And I think that our dance communities are really uniquely posed to be a place where we can start to counter these things and bring the antidotes into it. And we already see a lot of the antidotes in the dance world. Yeah. And I think that, if we bringing this list into the focus of dance can be just a really incredible way to look at it.
Yes, totally agree. And it can be uncomfortable too. And that's really part of it.
That's part of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So shall we get into it? Let's look at paternalism first. I'll just toss out the definition. Definition is decision-making is clear to those with power and unclear to those without it. If you don't have power, you are affected by decisions and have no power to be a part of the decision making. And the quote is, because I said so. And that's such a parent thing. Like that's kind of the trope of what a parent says when they're giving a reasoning for a rule or whatever. It's just cause I said so.
Right. Instead of and knowing what the reason is or having a full understanding or let alone a say in why these things are going on.
And I think that being treated as children culturally is a big part of what brings paternalism to power dynamics. And there's so much of that in dance, right? And so we see that in the dance world. I mean, in lots of ways, but one example is contests, this hierarchy, right?
Totally. I always kind of want to what are they writing on those clipboards?
Right.
What's going on in there? And the contests have so much in the competitive dance world of the contest winners are the leaders of the community. And it's not always very transparent how those contests are being decided upon and where those decisions are happening. And they have a great effect on the rest of the community.
It's true. And I feel like there are contests in dances that have that are standardized, like West Coast swing. There are contests where it's very clearly ahead of time what they're looking for. But even a judge who's looking for a certain kind of like turnout in a foot is going to have a personal feeling about that. And they don't have to explain themselves. And we're still looking to people to judge us, to create the kind of hierarchy that we see in dance.
Yeah.
That is just about what these people behind the clipboard, like you said, are feeling and thinking.
There's a lot of like energy and societal structure that goes into like that first, second, third.
Totally.
That happens. Yeah. Big question that I have around contests. What a contest without white supremacy, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. Like, because that does exist, but I don't have any concept of what that's like. That's something that I would really love to be able to find out one day.
Yeah. If you have any things to share, drop us a comment.
Yeah, that's something. If there's anyone we could interview that would help us understand, if you know any cool contests.
But yeah, then some antidotes, including people in the decision making of what our contests and like what our dance world looks like. Right? Like if we're going to be in a contest, include more than just like 3 top tier people in what that contest looks like.
I think that there can be of just like clearly posting what the rules are, what the dance contest is looking for, what kind of point systems you use, what those points mean, people who have won in the past, like, so people can have a really clear idea of what a dance contest, and like what that's actually deciding. I think an antidote too is something that we, dance organizers always like, it's like the tyranny of the fact that dance communities are also businesses. That means that there's a business owner and that business owner is making decisions for the community based upon their business decisions.
Right.
And that can be so harmful for the community. So if there's an antidote that if you really want to be treating your community like community, you involve everybody in the kind of decisions that are made.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that, on the face of it, it sounds like a really big endeavor, but it also is kind of liberating because it means that the organizers don't also have to be trying to be perfect.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
It's like a pooled resource of like what the whole community wants. And it kind of takes the pressure off. But I think that's hard to see when you have power.
Yes. Because you have to let go a lot of control within that. And there's a great reward of letting go of control because you get the support.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I feel like that's a really good transition into the next one, which is power hoarding.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do you want to define that one for us, Lou?
So power is seen as limited. That's where it's like, you talk about how power is not pie. Like, there's more than just one slice that you can get. There's infinite amount. And it's those with power feel threatened when anyone suggests changes in how things should be done in the organization.
Anyone who has power is both like in control, but they're also threatened all the time because they don't want anyone else to like take their power.
Right, because they have to hold on to it.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's that the game of white supremacy is being the one that holds all the monopoly money. Like, you're the one that's supposed to get all of the things. Mm-hmm. Let's get into some dance examples about it, because the studios are just so competitive.
They are.
It's very like, and it's hard again because you're a small business.
Right. So that creates these kind of dynamics where they're really resource guarding what it is that they have just to survive as a business.
Right. Absolutely. I think that one of the really things that's important to remember is that those resources that you're guarding are people. They're humans that are dancing, and they're coming to, participate in community, which is so vital to us having, society in general, that when when organizers and when people come in with wanting to draw lines in the sand of, trying to get as many people loyal to them and not loyal to others, can just be not conducive to a super happy dance community.
Right. And I feel like, there's some things that the dance world does really well. And one of them is like this kind of idea that like we don't step on each other's toes with like, like I know, for instance, in the salsa world in Seattle, most everyone is really trying to hold their event when another event isn't happening.
Right. It's like the dates, choosing the dates. What night is your social on? And
right.
Stuff like that.
And like that, obviously that's something you want to consider. They're considering it for other businesses, but they're also considering it for their own. Like we don't want half of the community to be at a different address
Totally.
across town or whatever when we're having our event. But I also see it as kind of this thing that is like a communal thing that organizers and studios do communicate about often. I've noticed that, which is a nice thing to see.
That's definitely the antidote to it too, of realizing that really what you need to do is collaborate.
Right.
And that it's not about, creating these little castles of your own little dance socials and then seeing who can get the more people in the door, that it's about realizing that high tide means all boats float. And how do we all come together and create an ecosystem of dance rather than these like individual studios?
Totally. And like the reality is if more people if there's more stuff going on that's dance related, it is going to get more people interested in dancing.
Absolutely.
More. And so that I like that high tide analogy, because it does mean that dance is more of a community for everyone, and that there's more stuff going on dance related. The next one is on the list is fear of open conflict, which I'll just define as emphasis on being polite. When someone raises an issue that causes discomfort, that response is to blame the person for raising the issue, rather than to look at the issue which was actually causing the problem. Whoo, this is a big one.
This is a really, really big one.
Yeah, this is like in very few words, this is the equivalent of like victim blaming in the scene.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, this is on a really wide stage. This is like Israel has the right to defend itself.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, you're not looking at the genocide that they're creating, that Palestine is trying to defend themselves. You're just looking at the person with the most power and just like doing whatever you need to do to think that their power is infallible.
Yes. And the fear of, like, that is like so related to that right to comfort, which we talked about, or will talk about. But the fear of open conflict, like I see it specifically as this kind of like sweeping under the rug of the real problem.
Yeah.
And it really is like this, I see it as like from a waspy family, I'm like, it's this idea that there's like all this turmoil going on underneath, but like no one actually sees it.
Right. Because you just have to swallow it down. Like we talked a lot the last episode too about how this is like a list of nervous system dysregulation.
Totally.
And this is like a really big one. This is being stuck in fawn. Like there's harm that's allowed to be existing, but you don't have like your nervous system is shut down so that you don't speak about it. And that's like our nervous systems regulate like that together and stuff like that. And that's something that like you'll all be in this nervous system shutdown where like no one's like naming the really fucked up conventions that are around. And then that's how like the patriarchy is allowed to exist.
Totally. And it really is this like kind of like keeping up with the Joneses idea of like looking good, but not actually acting in accordance with what's right.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, we do see it in the dance world a lot, but I think we just see it in social.
It's just how our society works.
Exactly.
It's really infuriating, especially when you start to tune into the stories of those that are actually the victims trying to speak up. It can be really infuriating to be like, why are people mad at them? Like they're the ones, all they're doing is pointing out that this harm is being created. How are they, it's like asking if someone was a victim of sexual assault and you ask them, what were they wearing?
Right. It's like, very akin to that.
It's backwards.
Yeah. It reminds me of this, like when I first started salsa dancing, there was like this kind of spoken/unspoken list of like etiquette. And one of the etiquettes was that you don't want to say no.
Right.
You don't want to say no. And back in that day, it was mostly also assumed that leads, i.e. men, were going to be asking. So it's basically like the rule is not to say no to men.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Because you can't have the conflict of saying no.
Right. And then they leave and like there was this whole like the opposite of whatever a whisper network is of men being like, oh, I just hate it when so many girls say no. Like that is like a statement I've heard so many times. And it's like, well, maybe you should say no too. See how it feels. Like you don't have to say yes to everything, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
I think
and like
that's
no,
huge.
being told no doesn't need to be conflict either.
Well,
Like that's not even conflicting. That's just even someone stating their presence. But when you have this fear of open conflict, then even just a simple no is not acceptable.
Right. Right. And I think that the fear of the open conflict is kind of like what happens after the aftermath of that. Like if you say no, it's going to create this kind of dynamic that ends up being conflict when it's really just a simple, like, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that right now. We also see it in like, if there is an injustice, like the sort of organizers or whatever, digging into like more about what the person bringing the issue up has done instead of the actual person that's been causing harm. And I think that can be really, really a hard dynamic to negotiate.
Yeah. And a very common dynamic that happens a lot.
I think so too. Yeah. So what are the antidotes with this one?
Well, I think one of the really amazing things that I see implemented, it's something that the dance world has really done positively. And it's something that I hope goes from the dance world beyond. It's like role playing, saying no.
Right.
Like changing that convention of like women always have to say yes to men, and that like our body autonomy and like our, like us sacrificing the safety in our own body to save the conflict that might happen, that we're like, that just doesn't happen in dance, that we just don't do that. And that we do a lot of role playing and like working to combat that as a convention.
And like follows and women asking men that they want to dance with.
That like everybody's allowed to say no, and that no is a full sentence.
So that it's not just women like constantly on the defensive and having to like manage that. It's like a more like holistic ecosystem of people asking one another, and that no is okay.
Yes. And that it's something that it's also like role played and demonstrated a lot. So then when it happens out in the world or on the dance floor, it's more like second nature. Like, you know that it's coming out okay, so that there isn't a conflict. So there's no fear of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the other big one that is an antidote that we're seeing more and more of is just a code of conduct in a space.
Yes.
In a dance space.
Yeah. Code of conducts that really slow down whatever harm is being created, and make sure that you're supporting everybody that's within the conflict, and really addressing it like head on in an open way, not just like a shutdown kind of way.
Yeah. It's basically just like, let's allow these conversations to happen.
Yes.
So that we're not afraid of what might happen if we disagree, or if, there's something to work out. I mean, that would be huge moving forward.
Yeah. And one more bit of advice that specifically is in this document written by Tema Okun, talks about making sure that you're doing like a postmortem or like a follow-up or like a debrief after there's some sort of big harm or conflict, is that once that the emotions have kind of subsided, then going and revisiting it and finding what you can do to be sure you're serving everybody involved even better next time. Because the idea is that conflict happens. That conflict is a part of creating a fair and liberated society. And that in order to not fear it, like you have to constantly be analyzing what you've done and knowing how to be able to move through it even more effectively next time.
Yes, it's like going towards.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, individualism. And this is a focus on competition over cooperation, feeling like one person needing to succeed in the community instead of like the whole community succeeding together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is just like the whole dance world. It like the veil got thinner and thinner as I danced longer and longer of like, oh my goodness, it really revealed itself to me just how much of the dance world is about competition on like several different levels. And like basically, of course, actual competitions where you are competing against other people is like a very obvious extreme of that, but just like, it's such a competitive world.
It is. It's even competitive with your dance partner within the dance.
Yes.
Of like who is, being the flashiest or who is like holding their ground the most or whatever, instead of it being like this collaboration where both people get to speak and
Right.
it's something where people are creating something together.
I feel like when you watch a dance that is very conversational, the nervous energy of the dance just is like so low. You can like see the conversation and fluidity happening, but there's so much about, I've been in countless dances where I just feel like I'm kind of surviving for my life while simultaneously trying to look good. Like that's such a wild thing to have to manage while you're really just trying to connect to the music and somebody else and your own body. So it's that individualism too is like what I hear in this definition is that you have to be the best. Yeah. And you have to stand out, right? As an individual.
And then everybody's doing that. Then everybody's trying to step on everybody else on their way to the imaginary top.
Right. Right. I mean, this one is kind of like straightforward, right? It's just like the antidote is that we need to value cooperation with one another and like communicate physically in the dance world, like whether we're talking or debriefing after something, a conflict, or just like the way we dance with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is even where talking about having everybody lead and everybody follow, everybody, not necessarily making everybody a switch dancer, but like everyone who is a dance student, at least getting a little sampler of what dancing the other role is, creating that dance empathy so that you understand that it's not just you trying to survive this dance looking as fashy as possible, but that it's a conversation happening between both of you and that you can hear that because you know what the other side feels like.
So true. I've had so many moments of just having wishing a lead would follow what they're leading. Which is like
you see what this turn feels like.
It's kind of
you
an evil.
Know what that pop turn feels like?
It's like an evil wish because it's bred out of this feeling of like I feel so bad in this dance. I want you, But it's what it really points to is this feeling of like when one person is kind of dominating and being really individualistic in the dance, it feels off, and so having two dancers that can kind of understand each other's role with ELEF, you can practice that. It does start to create this more communal feeling in the ballroom.
Yeah. And like anything you can do to kind of disrupt the individualism and bring it into a communal space, whether that's like organizers asking the whole community for opinions before they make a big decision, or, just having more people be centered in your community rather than just contest winners. I think all of that can make it feel more like a community than just like individuals being propped up by a community.
Yeah. In salsa, we talked a little bit earlier about competitions. I'm just like wanting to throw this out there. In salsa, the individuals that are really touted are the performers. So performance is a lot more common than competition. In some areas, of course, there are competitions, but those individuals are kind of seen as like the local stars. Yeah. And many of them are not my favorite people to social dance with because they're in performance mode. And so it's like when you feel that sense of like being less than, it makes you want to do what they're doing. And so it kind of creates this rift in the community, right? Yeah. So like what would a contest be like or a performance be like that was like more than just about how you look or like how flashy or how many moves you can pack into an 8 count or whatever?
Yes.
I mean, that's such a, again, if you have any ideas, drop a comment.
That's something I've always kind of joked about. Like, we should do a bake-off, or like, where's the fashion contest? Like, where's something where
wear the craziest outfit you can in this contest.
Right. Like, why aren't there more like categories in this? Like, why is everything just like whose swing out is whatever? Like,
the theme is,
I want more people to be centered here. Like everyone, I feel like an effective community gives everyone a chance to be centered in it.
I love that. The theme is chocolate chip cookies.
Yes. I would love that. That would be such a fun dance social where everybody made a chocolate chip cookie and then you voted.
I'd be here for that.
That would be a good night. Okay, so then the next one, very much so related to individualism. There's also the thought of I'm the only one. And this is, if it's going to get done, then I have to be the one to do it.
So yes,
thought process. And I, as someone who's done a lot of organizing, I feel like I used to get stuck in this a lot. Of I would do all this planning and organizing, and then I would get stuck in the ability to delegate it out. So then before I knew it, I was like doing everything.
Right.
And that's something that I've had some like incredible debriefs with people that I've artistically collaborated with, including you, Kate, like when we did some big art shows where I asked for feedback for being a leader and people are like, you're doing too much.
Right.
I did my best to like really take that to heart and feel that like good leaders are also followers. Like a good leader is actually supporting the group as a whole, as opposed to being the one that does everything.
I love what you did there. And that is so true. I mean, I think of course, this is like the ocean we swim in, like you said, it is really, really common. It has been in my past too, for being the person who just kind of like quietly takes everything on. And that looks different for each of us, right? Like for you, it maybe is organizing. For me, it's just like I kind of like hide my feelings away or whatever. But when we do that, we not only burn ourselves out and isolate ourselves, but we take it away from the rest of the community.
Yeah.
And I think that happens in dance a lot, where organizers want things to be really perfect. And so they kind of take everything on, but they may not even know what the temperature of the community is. Like, what does the community actually want? It's very common in the dance world for like one person to kind of be frantically running the show.
Right. And it like really, not only is that incredibly hard on whoever is taking all of that on, it also like greatly degrades the work as a whole.
Yes.
When you include more people in creating any type of community or organization, that there is less control, there is more collaboration, and it just like spreads out what the power is. So it might seem less perfect to one person, but it's actually just something that's serving a lot more people.
Totally. And that kind of like, that idea is what, leads to the antidote of this like trust in the community. Maybe have a committee or like a way, like a set way that you delegate, or like transition of power. Like if somebody's like, maybe somebody runs the social for 2 months and then a switch happens, right? Where there's
having
multiple
rotating
people.
facilitators and just like more than one person always being the organizer, always being the decision maker, that like more people can come in and make this community happen. I think that the fact that trust is the main antidote to this really talks to the fact that this is nervous system dysregulation, because that's like being untrustworthy is one of the first things that we feel when we're moving from a place of trauma. And the true antidote to this is to really like heal that and begin trusting the people around you.
Totally. Yeah. And asking for help.
Yeah.
Which is adjacent to building trust, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Love that.
All right, let's move on.
Yes. So this one is progress is bigger, more. And the definition is quantity over quality. Basically like this idea that the more you churn out, the better it's going to be. Yeah.
Just like the more money you make, the more people in the door, the bigger the event, the flashier it is, the more nights that you have, people dancing in your studio, or the more moves that you have, all of those things, that the more flashier, more noticeable is what's better.
Yeah. And we see this in the dance world in like a very kind of basic way of like, and again, this is so much driven by the need to keep your business open if that's what you do for a living. So that is a very sticky wicket, but getting more dancers in the door, regardless of like what it is that you're actually providing as a community and as a dance space, and just, learning more, getting better, as fast as you can. How many nights of dance did you eat? Oh, I danced 6 nights this week. Oh, I danced 7 nights this week. You know, that kind of like competition of
like who's the most dedicated to their dance,
who slept the least,
ignoring their own safety and life the most to be the most obsessed dance person.
Right.
Which I have definitely played that game.
Oh, for sure. For years I did that. Yeah. I'm laughing because I did it. Yeah. I mean, I think this one is so related to all of them really, but it is the kind of the idea that if I can just show up and look good and be producing the most, I'll be accepted in this kind of space, right?
Yeah.
And the antidote is letting things be simple, letting the basics and the fundamentals be enough. Mm-hmm. That's one antidote anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely having the quality over the quantity. Mm-hmm. Like instead of an experience that a lot of people who that a lot of dancers have is that they want more of a repertoire. They want more fancy moves. They want more shapes. And they're doing that before their basic is really to the point where it can sustain that. And sometimes in our dance careers, we just kind of need to put on the brakes and really, you know, go back to the simpler stuff that's not as flashy and like really make sure that the foundations are there before we move on to like bigger, flashier stuff. And that goes on to, you know, when you're making your dance community, are you getting enough beginners in the door to sustain the higher, fancier classes that you want? Or are you just like rushing students through so that you know, can make things be as like flashy as possible to continue this like never ending cycle of getting more people in the door?
Right. Right. And I feel like that focus on the quality it's so easily missed because dancing is hard.
Yeah.
Dancing is actually kind of a lifelong journey. Like if you talk to a tango dancer, they're not prime until they're like in their 80s. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Once they've like learned all the crazy stuff and then they're actually like deeply attuning to their partner and just kind of like moving in unison. That's like that's the goal. And I think that happens with a lot of dancers is that stick with it anyways. They go through that phase of like, you know, that hungry ghost phase of like, I need more moves, I need more material. And then after they've been with it for a while, they're like, I just want to have a crossbody lead, for salsa's example, that feels like $1 million, that feels connected and safe and musical. And so I think that that's really hard to encourage students to focus on. I feel like I want to share just my own personal dance experience. I teach for Queer Chata, and the dancers that come to Queer Chata are really there for so many reasons, but a lot of them are there for just feeling part of community. Mm-hmm. And some of them are wanting to connect to the music too, of course, but I really haven't had the same kind of drive for material and fixation on moves with that group that I've had in other non-queer classes. And I just find that really, really fascinating. It's been so much more about connecting and grooving and having fun. And that's been primarily student driven. I mean, that's how I teach too, but that's what they want.
That's glorious.
Is amazing.
Like, I love that.
Yeah. And I feel like that focus, would benefit everyone, of course, not just dancers that are queer. All right. So let's move into objectivity. Objectivity is the idea people can be objective outside of emotion, invalidating people who show emotion. Some demographic of people are considered emotional, for instance, and some aren't.
This one's really interesting, especially in such a patriarchal place as the dance world, because like women are seen as emotional and men aren't. So men are seen as correct and men are seen as wrong. And like, thank God this is getting more and more outdated, but it's also like pretty foundational to our culture. So like this still comes through quite often.
Yeah, the objectivity is like this kind of, you know, it's black and white thinking. It's a set idea before actually having the experience, right? And I mean, we say that it's changing, but I was just at a social a couple weeks ago and I saw a man have a really specific kind of hissy fit after being told no.
Yeah.
He like pulled his hand away and like rolled his eyes and stormed off.
Right. And that's like not really viewed as like an emotional, like he didn't think that he was being emotional. He was thinking that whatever happened was what was wrong. And he was like having a totally normal response to that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean to laugh at people that have a hard time hearing no, but it is something that's very real in the dance world that they could examine. So yeah, I feel like in the dance world, I mean, there's so many examples of this, but organizers and communities feeling like their stance is objective when they haven't actually taken a temperature or like understood what's going on in the community itself. I just want to also point out, it's not just women that are seen as more emotional, it's marginalized people in general.
Right. And that's out to absolutely like an intersectional thing too. Like we look at Black women as being angry.
Right.
And it's like, well, and not only is that like a monolithic stereotype, there's also a lot of reasons for Black women to be angry in our society.
Right.
So we're not looking at the reasons why they might be having emotion because we're looking at everyone around them as being emotionless.
Right. That's that objectivity of like, oh, well, I'm all cool, calm, and collected, and that's our social norm, and not taking the full picture into view. And we just see that all over the place. We can see it in like how we judge queer people for being quote unquote dramatic, or the way that they dress, or, you know, there's so much of that. But I feel like, you know, the antidote is taking people's worldview into account, taking people's experiential awareness and stance as valid.
Yeah. I think it's also recognizing that we have our own emotional view, especially if you are a white person. You need to know that you have all of this stuff that is this baggage that's going to make you see the world in like these specific Black and white ways. And you need to take extra steps to combat that. Like if you're in, if there's a situation where someone is, trying to move through a code of conduct violation, and you have one person that's a person of color and another person that is like a white cisgendered man, and you're thinking that the person of color, you know, brought up a concern and they sound really emotional about it.
Right.
And you're like starting to move to discount whatever they're going to say. That might be a moment to like hit the brakes.
Right.
And take a deep breath and try to really understand like everything that's going on and why that person might be showing emotions and why you might think that might be a reason that they can be discredited.
Totally. And I think that's where in real time we can use Tema Okun's list to like pause.
Yes.
And really check in on ourselves. And in the dance world, this is just like, you gave a perfect example, but being comfortable with things that are unfamiliar is going to be a huge way to move through this element. Is like, okay, that other person is having this experience. I'm having this judgment about it. Let's see if I can question that and be more in their shoes than mine.
I think a beautiful way that we could see this trying to be supported in the dance world more is also having more mediators, more people that can be support in the dance community when there are ruptures or when there is abuse or when there's code of conduct violations that aren't like the organizers themselves.
Yes.
Because the organizers themselves are going to make their business decisions. And that's not the best for the community. That's not that rarely does that bring restorative justice to the people that are in conflict. And someone that can bring in that empathy to all sides instead of having the like business, owner blinders on.
Totally.
I think could be really supportive.
I love that idea. Can you imagine if there was just like a impartial mediator at every social?
Right.
That was trained.
Yes. That could just like support everybody and make sure that it's like a really healthy, caring environment for everyone that walks in the door.
Amazing.
That'd be incredible.
Let's have that happen in 2026.
Absolutely. Yes. 2026 goals.
Let's go.
All right, let's bring it on home. Last one is right to comfort. And this is defined as the belief that those in power have a right to emotional and psychological comfort. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, all of the rest of the ones come to this one, that the people that are in power have the right to be comfortable, and anything that you do that disrupts that is what is wrong.
Yes. Say more. Like, I honestly, when I read this list the first time, this one, I think was like a quiet one in the background, but as I've read it over and over again, this is one that's like really jumping forward for me as well. And I feel like it's because as a white person, my right to comfort keeps me so unable, if I don't question it, to see other things.
Yes.
That it makes it totally impossible to see the water we're swimming in.
Absolutely.
And so if you jump outside of it, or even slowly step outside of your own comfort zone, then you start to see stuff more and more and more, and it becomes more clear. But without that, it's so hard for so many people to do it.
We as human beings like want to find comfort. That's
Totally.
like what we want. And that's rarely where the good stuff is within that comfort.
Right.
And the people who are in power tend to be the ones that demand comfort, and it's normally at the expense of others being uncomfortable. And that where this really becomes disruptive white supremacist behavior is when others aren't allowed to disrupt your right to comfort. Like,
Totally.
if there's a queer person out in the world dressed like away, like a leather daddy walking down the street.
Yeah.
And if some church lady clutches her pearls, like, that's fine, actually.
Right.
Like, that's great. Let her clutch her pearls. Look, she got more world experience. No one was actually hurt here. She was just made to be uncomfortable for a moment. And
Right.
that's actually really helps you grow.
Totally. I mean, I do think that that's kind of a big thing we're experiencing in the last 10, 20, 30 years is coming slowly out the other side of all the discomfort of people being who they really are. And my hope is that it will start to come full circle where everyone starts to feel like they can really be who they are. But that takes a certain amount of people stepping out of their comfort zone. And some people don't feel safe enough to.
Yeah, to be able to get that first step out of it, because to be able to be a white person that has grown up in this white supremacist world, to take a moment to like look at that and to look at the how much you benefit from this extremely harmful system on a foundational and daily basis, that's really uncomfortable. That really sucks to look that in the face and to like realize that you've done things personally. Like, I've had a lot of experiences and it's deeply uncomfortable. And it's also like, it is something that you continue to deal with, but it gets easier.
Right. You kind of move through shame and guilt if you're willing to.
Right.
And step into a more open awareness of what's going on. And it allows you to connect more deeply as well.
Yeah.
But it is really uncomfortable. And I feel like in the dance world, we see this like so much with how much or how little we want to know about these dances.
Yeah.
Like, we want to enjoy the nights out. We want to enjoy the DJ. We want to enjoy connecting with a person, maybe even of a different gender or the same gender or whatever. But do we want to actually learn about where these dances come from, who the founders are of the music, the roots and history?
Or just like acknowledging you as a white person stepping into a ballroom, you would not be doing the activity you're doing without slavery.
Exactly.
If that didn't exist, like, you are benefiting it from slavery foundationally in this moment, the second you step into a ballroom.
I set that one up. Lou knocked it down. That's exactly what I was saying. It is this kind of white elephant. No like wordplay intended in every single ballroom. But if you don't pull the veil back, you will not have to see that as a white person.
Right.
Because it is a really fun, evening. I mean, I think I've said this before, but a lot of salsa songs, they just sound so celebratory and happy. But if you actually understand what the lyrics are talking about, it's it can be sometimes a really dark subject matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that this, again, is one of the most amazing places that like the dance world can gift the rest of our society, is that we can start to step outside of those comfort zones. Like, what a beautiful gateway to understanding the liberation of oppressed people of color if you're a salsa dancer and you start listening to the lyrics.
Totally.
And start like looking into the history. And, you know, if you love Lindy Hop and you look in Billie Holiday and then you're like, wait a second, she died chained to a hospital bed by the CIA.
Right.
Like, wait, what? And then you go down these rabbit holes, and the rabbit holes make you uncomfortable, but they also make you much more informed person.
Totally. And I feel like, you know, talking about the appropriation that happens in the dance world is a big part of it. And I think it can't just be something that we listen to. I think it needs to be a conversation that we start to.
Yeah.
That we
Absolutely.
participate in it and sometimes bring it up, because I think that's how we slow down and really get into like that discomfort to get to the other side of it where we can actually make change.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the gifts that the dance teachers can give the world, is starting to like open these doors and present these rabbit holes to people and encourage them to continually step out of their comfort zone, and not even in learning about the roots and history and where these dances come from, but also somatically getting into their body and actually truly getting into the groove. That's super uncomfortable for a lot of people. And it's like somatically such an important place to like come to being truly embodied and being able to be resilient.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like that embodiment is such a big part of what it is that people are trying to connect with when they dance. And it sometimes gets missed by trying to like hyper fixate on just one element of the dance.
Yeah.
And that was our last characteristic of white supremacy from Tema Okun's list. We're of course going to link everything in the pod description, so do go check that out. Yeah.
And I hope that hearing this list and relating it to the dance world has been helpful for you. I hope that there's some other, you know, white folks like us that are coming along on this like decolonizing journey and doing it through the dance world, and that this list can serve you as well as it served me. And that, you know, Kate, this list has been a little more newer to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about, you know, just how having this list in your life, just the last few months, has changed you a little bit?
Yeah. And it's not just, it's the list, but it's also just doing this podcast in general, because at the beginning of our recording, we did an episode called We Are White and That's Problematic.
Yeah.
And that episode really brought up so much discomfort for me about my own whiteness, my experience as a person who has Welsh, Scottish, and Irish heritage and not really being connected to them. And so like from that, and that really transformed me and has continued this inner dialogue of reconnecting, really, and being willing to go into discomfort. And then when we started doing planning for this episode, when I read this list, I was just kind of knocked back at how prevalent these characteristics are in my body, in all of my relationships, and in every experience I have out in the world. Yeah. But if you don't, as a white person, pull that veil back, like I said, you really don't have to see it.
Right.
You really don't have to. And so my experience has just been like over and over again, just choosing to pull that veil back when I can remember to. And it is getting more, it's normalized in my body. So I really thank you, Lou, for sharing it with me.
That's beautiful. I love that for you. And that's very much so been my experience with this list. I've been living with it for the last 5 years, and it just keeps getting more and more enlightening and also validating. And I'm so glad to have shared it with you and now shared it with everyone here. And it's actually the day that we're recording this is January 1st. So a happy new year. And I hope that everyone takes all this information into 2026 and that it's a really good year, and that a lot less white supremacy is in our dance worlds moving forward.
Yeah, right. I know.
And the whole world moving forward.
we can just, what we can do is just keep talking about it. And I think that really is the kind of like general antidote to all this, is like being open. So on that note, let's do our say bye and get out of here. Leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform if you are so inclined to.
And all love letters, suggestion, and feedback can go to degenderdance@gmail.com.
And thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Happy New Year.
Rock step, triple step. Ooh, ah, jazz hands.